So in this section, we're going to be looking at the second fermentation. After 48 hours, we'll have our kefir in here. What we'll do is we'll make the flavouring first. So, put this to one side for a moment. This first flavour I'm going to show you is our seaweed tea. Our seaweed tea is packed full of anti-inflammatory herbs and seaweed. And it's going to give an amazing flavour to our finished kefir. So we'll take 1 big spoon of this, be very rough with that measurement, and pour in roughly 50 millilitres of boiling water, and we'll let that steep for 5 minutes. Let's pretend it's been 5 minutes. What we can do at this point is we're going to be putting this into one of our bottles. So, as we've said before, the bottle needs to be safe to put fizzy drinks in. So in this process, in the second fermentation, this is going to become slightly carbonated. So it's important that this can essentially not crack, not break during that process. So, open the bottle. Let's take our funnel. Now you can use a metal funnel. I prefer a plastic funnel if you do have it. Don't go and buy plastic if you don't have one. But I prefer plastic just because it will be interacting with that kind of acidic kefir. As I said, metal is absolutely fine, but make sure it is stainless steel. So we have our funnel. We're going to pour our tea into there. So that will be the flavouring for this second fermentation. Obviously we've allowed this to cool. And as you can see, there's a little bit in the bottom there. That is our flavouring for this batch of water kefir. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter out the grains from the water kefir that we've made and pour those into here. Now what you'll want to do is make sure that your sieve is clean. So again, what we're going to do is we are to pour this mixture. This is our finished water kefir in here. As you can see, it's gone very slightly cloudy. Doesn't always go cloudy, but it will go very slightly cloudy. That's kind of a good finished water kefir. So I'm just going to carefully pour that into here. Again, try not to spill too much. Didn't do a great job of that. And here again we have our kefir grains. These are ready for the next round. So I'm just going to scrape them into our second beaker again. Ready for the next round. And here we have our finished water kefir. So this, we're just going to carefully pour. Again, trying not to spill too much like I'm doing here. But we're just going to carefully pour that into our bottle. So you want it about maybe an inch from the top, roughly. As you can see, I put a little bit too much in there. Pour a tiny bit out. Okay. So that's about right. Maybe a tiny bit more. Absolutely fine. Doesn't need to be too precise. And at this point, we're going to cap this. So it's important that this procedure is anaerobic. So here, it's not open to the air. This we're going to leave for 3 to 5 days. Depends on how warm it is. So if it is very warm, then kind of more around the 3 to 4 day region. If it's a really cold time of year, like now, We could look at maybe up to even a week, 10 days. What you'll do after each 3 days is you'll just kind of very slightly open it and see, has carbonation built up. You will hear it. You'll hear a bit of gas seeping out. You don't want to let too much out, but you're going to leave that, again, out of the sunlight and in a place that is around 20 to 26 degrees. That's ideal. Very slightly warmer is absolutely fine. Colder, not so great. When you're happy with your finished kefir and the way that it tastes, the way to keep it at that level of fermentation is to put it in the fridge. Once you put it in the fridge, that will last for weeks. So just as a refresher, what you'll then do to brew, whilst this is going through its second fermentation, you can actually start first fermentation of a new batch of kefir. So you'll get this, you'll get your litre of water again, your 2 tablespoons of sugar, 30 grams of sugar, and then your kefir grains into there. So as you do this process again and again and again, what you'll see is that your kefir grains will start to multiply. They don't necessarily double over a certain amount of time, but they will multiply based on the conditions that you have in the jar. So after a while, you might see that you have way more than you started with. And at that point, it's a good idea to start really measuring how much roughly, again, it doesn't need to be too precise, but roughly how much of the water kefir grains you're putting in. So remember, we started with 40 grams. All the measurements I've given you in this box are for 40 grams of grains. What you can do then is then split it up. You can put some in that hotel that I was talking about before, which is where you just suspend them in a sugar syrup, a sugar solution, so a bit more sugar than water, and leave those in the fridge. Or you can split it into 2 vessels, 3 vessels, however many you want. If you're absolutely loving this process, go for as many vessels as you possibly can, I think. But just keep an eye on them. Again, every time it will take 48 hours to make your kefir, and you can keep bottling different types of kefir. That's it for this process. I'm going to show you a couple more recipes of this second fermentation, but that's really the whole process of making your water kefir. Enjoy! The second way to make this seaweed tea second fermentation is by putting enough of your water kefir into the bottle already, and then what we'll do is we'll just pour some of the seaweed tea. Again, we can be quite rough with the measurements here. Just a few good pinches of the seaweed tea directly into the bottle. Try not to drop it too much from the floor. Okay, so we've got a good amount in there. Let's put a tiny bit more just for good measure. Clean up. And then we'll cap it as we did before. Obviously, the benefit of the other way is that your finished product you can literally just pour out of the bottle. This one you will need to strain it when you drink it, but it could potentially impart a bit more flavour than with the other method. So that can be done with this seaweed tea. I'm going to show you other methods of doing it with different types of tea as well. You could do that with peppermint, with all sorts of flavour combinations. Really, the world is yours with that. Enjoy.